I will make a motion to approve the
agenda.
Do what?
I move to approve tonight's agenda.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's take up where we left off at the regularly scheduled meeting. And the first item up is case number variance 12/2023 at 625 West Broadway. And I'm assuming, Adam, that you'll take us through the presentation again?
Yes, but I'll try to be more efficient.
Oh, that's okay.
All right. Okay, can you guys see the screen?
No.
Amanda, can you see the presentation screen?
No.
No, okay, hold on.
It's your folder.
Yeah, hang on. There we go. Now you see it, right?
Yes.
All right. All right, so in follow-up to our last meeting, this, of course, involves the signage case at the BP gas station, which is proposed at the northwest corner of Broadway and Garden Street or Vitality Drive. As I had mentioned, the zoning on the property is commercial neighborhood. It's within the corridor overlay, and the gas station is under construction right now. The owner of the BP gas station would like to install a sign with LED pricing and a polycarbonate box, which are both prohibited in the zoning ordinance. And therefore, the request here tonight is for development standards variances. And the case received a 2-to-1 vote for approval on November 30th. However, since the case did not receive a 3-vote majority as required, it was continued to this special meeting here tonight on December 7th. Just a refresher, here is where the sign is located. And then here is the one of the exhibits that the petitioner has provided. And this is what the sign would look like at night. This was an exhibit that I had provided, which was based on the previous version that the sign company had put together that meets the ordinance. This was a photo that I took of a different get-go. This happens to be at the southwest corner of 146th Street and River Road in Carmel. And this one shows a little bit better of an example of the mechanical pricing that we had talked about. And you can see what those numbers look like that they're using. Again, basically something that is allowable under our ordinance. So based on that picture, I had put together a mock-up that would show how first, for the pricing, they could use mechanical numerals for that. Sign company had mentioned that the smallest number that they can go down to are 10 inches tall. And so these would probably be about 12 inches. And then this is what the BP sign would look like illuminated at night if it was the routed out copy. So again, this would basically be meeting the ordinance. As I mentioned, At the last meeting, all the public hearing notice requirements have been met. And we're not aware of any remonstrance to this case. So the three different criteria to consider, I just took another look at the staff opinion and edited some of the wording, so I wanted to bring that by you all. The first test is the general welfare, that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. And my professional staff opinion is in yellow, and you're free to adopt that or to not adopt it. My opinion on the general welfare test is that it's probably not an issue, but setting a precedent for signage not in keeping with the ordinance at a brand new gas station could lead to further requests to deviate from the ordinance and could cause proliferation of bright signage at night along a prominent corridor. Secondly, the adjacent property test, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, with that one, I'd say probably not. No residential neighborhoods would be impacted by this. But the last one, on the practical difficulty, the strict application of the terms of this chapter will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property. I don't believe that test has been met. A sign company could design the signage based on the town standards in the ordinance. In fact, the same sign company did originally design signage for this project that met the ordinance. Secondly, the gas station attendant could change the pricing on the sign from inside of the building via computer, and the sign would still be fully illuminated at night with routed out copy and mechanically changeable pricing. If they simply remove the BP Invigorate band that's on the sign, they could easily have 2 rows of mechanical prices, one for regular and one for diesel. And then lastly, it should be noted that one of the reasons for the sign standards in the ordinance to begin with is to, quote, maintain and enhance the aesthetic environment of the town, end quote. Fortville has been trying to maintain its small town character and charm, and the city of Carmel also prohibits LED pricing signs, and that's a city known for having high design standards. So based on that, my recommendation would be to deny the request and to comply with the adopted zoning ordinance. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. Does anybody on the board have any clarification questions for Adam?
I do have a quick one. I just want to verify, Adam, in your mock-up, what you've shown, that's based on the mechanics that you saw obviously in person, for the mechanical signage, and that would be representative of actual sign numbering size.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I also have.
So those numbers in the example photo that I had where I measured those were 12 inches high.
Okay. And that's represented here. It relatively. Yeah. This wasn't a CAD design, but just
and to be clear, the petitioner had stated at the last meeting that there are limitations on the height of those numerals. They're correct. I confirmed that by calling the sign company that actually created that one in Carmel, and they said that the shortest that they can go down to are 10 inches. And based on the exhibit that the petitioner put together, the diesel sign here would be 6 inches. So if they did mechanical pricing, they'd have to be a minimum of 10 inches per what a manufacturer actually makes at this time. So basically this could be either presumably 12 inches or 10 inches.
All right, I have a follow-up question. I have a follow-up question, Adam. So with the mock-up sign here and the limitations of the signage company of the height of the letters that they actually can make, will this push the petitioner into having to go after a variance to increase the overall sign to accommodate it? Or will the 10 or 12-inch high letters fit within our standards?
It should be able to fit within the standard. So the square footage that's required, the maximum is 32 square feet. So they should be able to get it within that.
Okay, and on your mock-up sign, your digits on the regular and diesel are representative of the same height. You don't have one higher than the other?
No,
Okay, and on theirs, it would be.
we go back to theirs, see how they
Yeah.
have that
So the diesel's
invigorate. Yeah,
Okay.
the diesel's less because they have that invigorate advertisement above it.
Okay. All right, thank
So,
you.
I mean, lastly, it could easily be argued that what I'm recommending here on behalf of the town planning is that the diesel would be even larger in this particular mock-up than what they're showing.
Okay.
It would be more visible.
Okay, thank you. So anybody else from the board have any questions for Adam?
Yeah, I have a question. Was this not requested basically same request by Hux earlier?
The difference, it's similar. However, so with Hux, they had an existing LED sign, which was grandfathered in. And then they were looking to do a small expansion of the LED screen in order to accommodate a newer LED signboard within it. So they were basically expanding on a legal non-conforming sign. The only difference here is that this would be a brand new sign out of the gate. Nothing, of course, exists here today for this project.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, well, we're going to move on then to the petitioner's response. If we have the petitioner there, if they'd like to come up and say, you know, how they represent this case, their name, and say and spell your name, please.
Good evening. My name is John Cross, attorney for the petitioner. My address is 13 North State Street, Suite 241, Greenfield, Indiana, JOHNCROSS. I am here tonight with representatives of the petitioner as well as the sign manufacturer, so we can answer any questions that you may have afterwards. We just had our first hearing on this a week ago, so I think a lot of this is still fresh, but I think Adam did a good job summarizing the two variances that are being sought after, one for the display of LED pricing and as well for the polycarbonate illuminated BP logo as shown currently on the screen here. So going through the criteria, first to stay on the sign real quick. At the last hearing, there was points made of a potential second sign on the property on the north end. After getting more feedback from my clients, if a second sign does go up in that location, that would not have any pricing points on it. It would just be the logo for BP. So the only pricing points at issue would be on this current sign that's proposed at the southeast corner of the property. Adam went through the dimensions of it. The actual signage itself, the top half portion is going to be 4x8. The maximum height or the max height of the sign in total is 7.5 feet. So looking at this sign, it's again comparable to other of the LED gas station signages in Fortville. Now we know, of course, that there's an ordinance that bans any new sign whatsoever, no matter what the purpose is, to have LED signage on it. But we heard some feedback as to the reason why that was done at the last hearing, and the response was that it was to ban distracting LED digital signs. Here, this is not a distracting sign. It's just a very limited LED purpose with the illuminated BP sign. The numbers are going to be the only thing that will be digitized, much like the clock that's above me here, although albeit that has a lot more information that is shown on it. Ours are just going to be just the pricing points, not the month and the date and the temperature and all the fancy stuff that one has, but shows the convenience of how digitization can help us here. So there's no scrolling, there's no advertising. It won't be distracting. It's just the price numbers. Those price numbers can be changed electronically. That may happen daily. So there's a convenient factor for having the LED sign here. The corner that this sign would go at already has a stoplight. So the stoplight has its lights, those are bright as well. So it's not going to be, I think, any more distracting than that. The purpose of the light is to be visible, to attract attention, but not to do so in a distracting manner, but just to present better visibility for passersby. So I also drove by it tonight, and to the west of the property is the Scooter's Coffee Shop that has lights that go up the exterior and across the top. This is going to be less, I think, noticeable than that is. To the east side of the property is the Three Rivers sign, which looks like the numbers there are illuminated. So I don't think that this is going to be out of characteristic with the area that it's going up in. It won't be more distracting than anything else that's going on in the area. And I know that in speaking with our representatives from the sign company, they do this for a living, and they run into these issues a lot with other planning departments. And sometimes it's just not considered, well, if you ban all LED signs, how's that going to impact other types of companies and whatnot? And here again, this is just a very limited purpose for the sign. So whereas I know that there's a fear of creating some sort of precedent, but I think there's also a realistic approach to creating some sort of exceptions where necessary and where it makes sense. And I think here that is really what is being presented. It just makes sense and is from a business standpoint for the passersby and for the employees at the shop. And to go more on the sign options, so we can do LED pricing. We can do what Adam referred to as the mechanical, which would be the scrolling numbers that would flip, or there's just the old fashioned, put the numbers up, exchange them by hand manually. Originally, there's going to be 3 different types of fueling offered at this gas station. The petitioner here is stuck between working with, of course, BP officials and representatives, as well as town ordinances. So they are not able to put all of the free fueling pricings on to the current sign as proposed due to both those limitations together. So what they're proposing is to show 2 fueling points, which you see on the sign, that would meet both BP's approval and here if we get the variance approval as well. But if the LED variance is not granted, then as stated by Adam, yes, my clients did confirm as well that the smallest scroller digit sizes would be 10 inches in height, but the cabinets for those are going to be 26 inches tall, 39 inches wide. In order to implement that into the sign with the town ordinance standards for the 32 square feet, they would have to then reduce the fueling points shown to just 1. So instead of showing prices for regular and diesel, they would only be able to show 1 fueling price point. So that's from a business standpoint, that does not make sense, and that would not be what they would do, and don't believe that BP would approve that. So that means that they would have to go to the least preferred option of having to do the manual cards to change them daily and change as the price points come up. So understanding that the scrolling could be a different option here, that's not the case for the petitioner, given the restraints it's facing at the with its BP representatives as well. So that, and if there's any more questions about that, the sign representatives would be happy to discuss that. As to the manual cards, I understand that there are 12-inch options available and that they could fit the 2 pricing points on there, but that just imposes a lot more restraints and problems that they can avoid and can just be more convenient for LED for themselves and for the passerbyers. So allowing a variance for LED signs wouldn't have any injurious effect here. Again, Adam stated that there's been no opposition to it. Nobody's remonstrated. So there's no belief that allowing these lights would have any injurious effect. When that section as well. Again, we have the scooters with the lights on the building. We have the signs across the street. It wouldn't be out of characteristic, especially right next to a stop light right there. It would not be distracting by any means. It would also have no impact on the use or value of the properties around it. We've gone over that this is a commercial area for the most part. There are residential homes to the north of the property, but those are out of view from where the sign would be located at. So there would be no impact to those. The height is not going to be up to the 12 feet as it could be. So again, it won't be too visible from far away for those who can't see it from the residentials to the north. So here, there's just not going to be any sort of adverse impact on any of the surrounding properties. But as alluded to as well, there will be practical difficulties for the business for not allowing the LED signage or the illumination of the BP logo. Going to the exhibit 2 or the plans, if you could please pull those up. So we have the circled sign in the southeast lower right-hand corner, circled in red. So as stated last time, this is along State Road 36, which has a speed limit of 40 miles per hour. So again, driving by it, it's pretty dark and could be easy to miss. So you can see that there is a turnout section on the bottom portion that would turn into the access from the south side. That's roughly 200 feet where that turn in begins. So a purpose of that was from the traffic study that was obtained back in 2021 that would help alleviate concerns for turning into the gas station. You can see the canopies to the south of the property that would have the regular gas, and then there will be the diesel fueling stations on the west-hand corner as well. So the concern of looking at this, though, is we have a pretty long property line along State Road 36. So LED lights and numbers, they're going to provide much more visibility from a further distance. So coming from the east, they'll be able to see it sooner and be able to turn in sooner that way. But more concerning to the business is that when you're coming from the west, the distance from the sign to the entrance, that's over 400 feet right there. So that is a long distance to see. So the point of the LED lights is you can see it further away. It's more visible. I mean, it's one of those things that you don't really notice until you think about it. And in my business, I have not yet had to think about LED lights, but in the past couple of weeks, when I drive around at night, I'm looking at gas stations, I'm noticing lights, and I see signs that look nice aesthetically, both from the scroller mechanism as well as the LED signs. But one thing that really points out to me is LED numbers I can see a lot further away. And I think that here that'd be very important when you're coming in from the west, when there's a distance of 400 feet to turn in, you'd be able to see those as far away as possible. So not doing so would be a practical difficulty to the business. Along with that practical difficulty as stated is if the LED is not approved, then the manual option is going to have to be the route that they take. And that would have to require the employees to manually go change them. And my representative informed me that typically they're gas station employees are in their 40s or 50s. So that's a burden on them to go out there and take care of that. We know that, yes, that is part of their job, but there is a restraint and a risk in doing so that can be relieved by just allowing the digital signs. So if the scroller option was a real option, I think they would consider it, but because that's not the point, we are stuck with the realization that there will be real practical difficulties in having to use the manual numerals for the pricing that would have to be changed, if not daily, by the employees. We also stated as well that there will be a diesel station here. So that the main purpose of that will be for bigger trucks and whatnot. It will offer semis the ability to fuel up as well. Which semis turning in, if semi is going 40 miles per hour, it's going to take them 169 feet to stop per studies. So the sooner they can see a sign, the sooner they will be able to prepare and stop. As stated, that turnout is 200 feet. So that pretty much gives them the time that they would need to turn in. But again, there's just no reason to create more risk, in my opinion, than could be prevented otherwise by allowing the LED signs here. The operation of the non-electronic signs is also more expensive. There's a lot more upfront cost on the LED sign version, but that's because they have more convenience purposes. Whereas the non-electronic signs for the manual cards, that requires then again, the employee's time out of the store to change them. The numbers can fall down, so they would have to deal with that. The risk of employees changing them as well when there's inclement weather here, especially in the Midwest. So we don't see how the risks involved in the business and practicalities of the manual cards outweighs the convenience of the digitized LED versions. And again, I know as Adam pointed out in his last point that the purpose of the codes and the ordinances is to maintain the aesthetics of Fortville and whatnot. And here, this isn't the main strip. It's more of a commercialized corridor. And I think that when you look at that case by case here, these LED signs for just the numbers only and the illuminated sign, it's not going to be out of characteristic with that area that it's in. I do agree that you don't want to set precedent, and we know that just because you approve one variance does not give grounds to approve or deny another variance. These are all case by case situations. So in my line of business, I don't use another variance as grounds to request one because I know that just does not work. I know that other counties, other planning departments, they don't care about that. And I never raise it as a point. So there's no fear of a precedent being set because that's not within the standards. It's not one of the criteria that has to be considered. So there's no risk of that happening. And so with that said, would anybody else like to add anything? Sure. Come up and state your name and spell it, please.
Please say and state your name and how you represent the case.
Brian Dyke, BRINDYKE. I represent the fueling aspect and the BP brand part of this. The one reason that the sign he was showing with the two 10-inch pricers that scroll won't work, and the reason we would only be able to get one pricer is because that BP Invigorate panel is mandated that it has to be on every sign below regular by BP. There are no exceptions, and they're ruling on that.
Okay, thank you.
Can that be repeated, please?
So the reason that the dual scrolling pricers that he Adam mocked up, the reason that won't be feasible for the site is because that's showing two 10-inch scrollers or 12-inch scrollers, I think he mentioned. But that removes this BP Invigorate panel, and in BP's branding requirements with no exceptions, that BP Invigorate panel has got to be listed under the regular pricing at every site. They will not provide an exception on that. So therefore, if they went with the scrolling style versus LED, they would only be able to fit in one price on there, which is also an issue.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else from the case, because I don't have visibility, that would like to speak? And somebody will have to tell me yes or no because I can't see.
I think from a petitioner standpoint, we are through, but happy to
Okay.
answer any questions.
All right, well, we may call the petitioner back up if we have any follow-up questions. Right now I have a time in the agenda for about 10 minutes for public response for or against comments or concern. Is there anyone that would like in attendance that would like to come up and have a question or comment? And again, I can't see, so you'll have to tell me if there's somebody. Okay, I see Earl shaking his head no.
No.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any government officials here tonight that would like to come up and say anything?
No.
Thank you, Earl. You'll have to be my eyes tonight. All right, so does the board have any follow-up questions from the petitioner on anything that you've heard tonight?
I've got a couple of points if I can.
Yep, go ahead, Nathan.
First, just on the most recent thing, that was one of the questions I did have. So if I go driving around town, I will not find another BP sign without the BP Invigorate. Because I'm fairly positive there are several around town, but that's so I guess the question becomes, are you asking us to provide a variance in something that you are not? Um,
Yeah, that is not accurate. BP does not provide exceptions on invigorate panels.
okay.
All right. Are there any? Go ahead,
to-
Jen.
So that is the only, that is the sticking point then for why we can't do the rollers. It's not to do with the width that was previously brought up. I wanted to ask about that, but then this was brought up. I just wanted more information on the required size of the roller mechanism. I know that was brought up as a reason why it would throw us out of compliance. So was just curious to understand that a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah, you want to speak about it.
Okay, oh, there we go.
I'm Doug Westland with Westland Concepts. The sign that was originally shown at a different station had the label on the left side of it and instead of above of it. And that made it too wide to try to stack it and get the logo and hit the 32 square feet. So that's where the width came into play. The stacked one going down to the 10-inch does work. When we go up to the 12-inch, that's when it got too big. And then the stack then it gets into the BP thing. So if I misspoke, I apologize. There's a lot of moving parts on the different placards versus digital versus rollers and all those different things. So I hope we cleared all that up. If not, I'm happy to answer more questions on that. Does that make sense?
Yep. So what I'm hearing is that the 10-inch would work, but then we're throwing the sign into non-compliance with BP. That's because we're missing that banner.
Correct. So the reason they were originally too wide though was because of the other example we saw at our last presentation had the type of fuel on the left-hand side, which makes it wider and then not as tall. Does that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And to quickly add on to that, so the 10-inch option for the scrollers that would work in order to use that 10-inch option, as I stated, that would mean that the sign could only have one fueling point shown instead of two. So they could do the 10 inches, but they would only be showing one fueling point on it. So that would create issues if they could even get that approved on the BP side. So that's why the best option would be to do the manual options. So yes, it could be possible, but it's not going to happen, is the bottom line.
All right. Any other board members have any clarification questions from the petitioner? All right, I have a clarification question, real quick back to Adam. Are we doing two variances here, one for the LED and then one for the BP logo, or is this all rolled into one? I'm a little confused on that.
For purposes of simplicity, it was rolled into one. You could break it out into two if you wanted to. There are two different provisions of the ordinance.
So right now, it seems like we're hung up on the numbers being LED versus placards versus rolling, but there's still an issue with the logo itself being LED. Am I correct, or am I missing this?
No, the other issue is that the logo is just a polycarbonate box. It's just it's just a face with a square box.
And is or is not allowed by our ordinance?
So that is not allowed.
All right.
So it has to be like a push through acrylic copy or routed out copy, as they call it. Now we've allowed polycarbonate panels before, as long as they're not in the shape of a box. So like with scooters, it has a different shape to it. I think that was brought up as an example at the last meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's see here. I did give government officials an opportunity, did I not? Yeah, okay, thank you. I kind of lost my place. Well, I guess we're to the point now where this comes back around and I'm looking for a motion to accept, reject, or accept with conditions.
I'll move to approve both the LED sign and the polycarbonate illuminated box sign.
All right, is there any discussion from the board on this? All right, I'm not seeing any indication. Because some of us are on Zoom, Alex, do we have to do a roll call vote?
You don't need a roll call vote, but I think we do need a second.
Oh, yeah, we did. I tell you, there's so many moving parts tonight.
I know.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second that.
All right, thank you. All right, well, now is there any discussion? Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Okay, well, all those in favor of accepting the motion as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm opposed. I believe motion passes. All right, thank you. All right, that closes that one out. I need to step away for literally 1 second to turn my oven off. Then we'll get to the second case. Okay, second case up tonight is variance 14/2023, and this is for at the address of 520 East Mill Street. Adam, would you give us the presentation, please?
Yep, let me, yay. All right. All right, so this last case here tonight deals with variances that are being sought for a project at 520 East Mill. This project would be located at the southwest corner of Mill Street and Ash Street, and it involves two parcels. They're each 22 feet wide by 111 feet deep, and they're both vacant grassy lots. The owner and the petitioner here tonight is Tom Caldwell on behalf of his LLC, Key Ready Properties. The zoning on the property is residential 3.5, and it is within the Old Town overlay. So Mr. Caldwell would like to construct a duplex, a two-family home, and the home would be a little over 2,000 square feet, and each unit would be slightly over 1,000 square feet. Each unit would be on a separate lot shared by a common wall. And in order to construct the home as desired, Mr. Caldwell is seeking the following development standards variances. So the first one regards lot width to allow construction on 22-foot wide lots instead of a 44-foot wide lot. Secondly, a setback variance to reduce the required 25-foot front yard setback on Ash Street to 6 feet. And then the third one is a setback variance to reduce the 6-foot side yard setback to allow 0 feet between the two lots. There is some history on this property. Variances for a similar proposed home were granted by the Hancock County BZA in November 2017 for a previous owner. However, the approval expired because the plat was not recorded within 1 year of approval. It was recorded later. If we take a look at the aerial photo here, you can see the two 22-foot wide lots. And then if we take a look at the bird's eye image, you can see the lot here within the purple rectangle. And here are some ground photos. We can always refer to any of these exhibits as necessary. This is looking from Ash Street. And then there's my shadow taking a picture of the property from the alley. Here is the plot plan that was put together. If we zoom in, you can see that there's a lot 1A, lot 1B. And again, those lots were already, those are already recorded lots, though they're technically not buildable because they don't meet the minimum lot width. So if we take a look at the architecture of the home, definitely in keeping with the neighborhood. And it does follow the residential design guidelines. So again, that first variance to allow the 22-foot wide lots, the minimum lot width in the R3.5 zoning district shall be the typical lot width utilized in the existing secondary plat covering the area in question. So in this block of the records and Voorhees plat, the typical lot width is 44 feet. So that would be the minimum lot width on which you could build in that area of town. All the public hearing notice requirements have been met, including the sign posting, newspaper publication in the Greenfield Reporter, and a mailing. And there's no known remonstrance to this variance. So for the first variance, my opinion's in yellow. On the general welfare test, I would say yes, that's been met. Allowing this smaller lot size in this case is simply to allow for separate ownership of the units, similar to a condominium. And there's no evidence to suggest that general welfare items would be negatively impacted. Secondly, on the adjacent property test, I'd say yes, that's been met. Again, the smaller lot width is essentially for ownership purposes, similar to a condo, and it's not to accommodate a smaller structure. So again, no evidence to suggest that adjacent properties would be negatively impacted, since the home in terms of size and architecture is similar to an adjacent home to the west. And then lastly, under practical difficulty, I think, yes, that test has been met as well. The petitioner purchased lots already recorded as 22 feet wide and were previously approved by the Hancock County BZA at that size. So if denied, he would need to combine the lots and it would not allow for separate ownership of the units. So my recommendation would be to approve variance number 1. The second variance dealt with the 6-foot setback along Ash Street. The zoning ordinance says that in this case, you'd have to have a 25-foot setback, or you could have a balcony or a porch that may encroach 15 feet, resulting in a 10-foot setback. And we're talking about the Ash Street side, and there is no porch on that side, so it'd have to be 25 feet. And also it's classified by the zoning ordinance as a front setback because it's adjacent to a street right of way. Same thing, no known remonstrance to this. And my opinion in yellow on this would be for general welfare. Yes, that's been met. There's no evidence to suggest that allowing a 6-foot side yard setback, in this case along Ash Street, which is a short street without any homes fronting along the west side, would negatively impact general welfare. Secondly, under adjacent property, I'd say yes, that's been met. There's no evidence to suggest that the house on the east side of Ash Street would be negatively impacted by the setback of this proposed home on the opposite side of the street. And then lastly, under practical difficulty, I'd say that's been met. The plan, including the setbacks as shown, is very similar to the plan proposed and approved by the Hancock County BZA. A 25-foot setback would result in a substantially smaller home, and the petitioner would likely not be able to fit a duplex on the lot with a reasonable unit size minimum. So I'd recommend that you approve that second variance. And then for the last variance, this would be to allow a 0-foot side setback between both of these two lots in question, lot 1A and lot 1B. Ordinarily, they'd have to have a 6-foot setback between the two. The home would straddle the property line, and the common wall separating the units would be down the middle of the property, therefore resulting in a 0-foot side setback of both lots. No known remonstrance to this one. And then really quickly, my opinion on the 3 different items. For general welfare, I'd say that's been met. No evidence to suggest that allowing a 0-foot side yard setback in this case in order to have separate ownership would cause any general welfare problem. Secondly, under adjacent property, I'd say yes, that's been met. There's no evidence to suggest that any existing adjacent property would be negatively impacted by allowing a 0-foot setback between the 2 new units for purposes of ownership. And then lastly, under practical difficulty, I'd say that's been met as well, that the plan, including the setbacks as shown, is very similar to the plan proposed and approved by the Hancock County BZA in 2017. And the setback separation rule is put in place to ensure that there's adequate space between separate structures. But in this case, the 2 units happen to be in the same structure. They're just horizontally separated. So with that, I'd recommend that you approve that third variance as well. So with that, if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to address those. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. Does anybody from the board have any questions for Adam?
Adam, I have a question. I know that Joe just walked out. He probably know better than you, maybe. You know what the utility setback is on Ash Street for the easement?
Well, the water main, do you see that here? It is between the proposed 4-foot sidewalk and the pavement. And so it's basically right at the right-of-way line. It's within town right-of-way.
Okay. So having it go up to 6 feet, that would not impact the easement?
No.
Okay.
No, because the 6 feet would be from the private property line to the house, and the property line is more or less near the back of the sidewalk here.
Okay.
Whereas the water main is going to be between the sidewalk and the street, or is already there, I should say.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question. So I see that we're seeking a variance for the 25-foot side setback from Ash to be reduced to 6 foot. What about the west side? Is it in compliance, or is this because it's not on a street, it's between structure and structure, or between a property?
Yes, the west side's in compliance.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, anyone else have any questions? All right, do we have anyone from the petitioner present that would like to come up and add any additional information? Please say and state your name and how you represent the project.
Okay, my name is Tom Caldwell, owner of Key Ready Properties, so owner of the lot and the structure that I want to build. One thing I just wanted to get out there is that is going to be 2 different properties. So it's going to be 2 single-family homes with a 2-hour firewall in between. So it's not a normal double where the attics are connected. I mean, this is a firewall. There'll be no utilities going through that firewall at all. It's a 2-hour rated firewall.
All right, thank you. So let's see, next is public response. Do we have anyone in attendance or on Zoom that has any comments or concerns?
No.
Nothing here.
All right, thanks. Then I have time now for government officials. Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against this project?
Shaking head, no.
Okay, thank you. All right, so does the board have any questions either for Adam or the petitioner?
I do have a question for the petitioner. Are these going to be, these are actually going to be sold to different owners once it's completed, or is this going to be a rental property?
I haven't made that decision yet, depending on the market. I would like to sell them, but depending on what the market does and how much money I have invested in them and what I can get out of them, to make
Okay.
that determination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, all right, well, I am looking for a board member and at this point, Nathan, are you going to be in for the vote or not, or, okay, all right. So Nathan will formally recuse himself as he is an adjacent neighbor to the property. So I am looking for another board member that is present to either make a motion to approve with conditions, or deny. And should we do this each one of these at a time, Adam, or should I lump them all together?
It's up to you.
Legally, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's up to you. So if you lump them all together and the motion doesn't carry, then we can start going through and doing them one by one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start out with see what happens here with a motion from a board member.
I'll move to approve first variance to allow construction on a 22-foot wide lot instead of 44-foot wide lot, as well as variance 2 to reduce the required 25-foot setback on Ash Street to 6 foot, and 3 to reduce the required 6-foot side yard setback to allow 0 feet between the lots.
All right. Thank you. Do I have a second? I need a mic on. Still nothing. Try again.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do we have any discussion from the board? All right. I'm looking for a vote. All in favor? I'm
Aye.
sorry.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Did that pick up everyone's vote? Because it's distorted on my end at times.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm getting a shaking of head. All right. Well, that concludes our cases tonight. Let's see. Motion passes then. Make sure everyone fills out their paperwork. I'm not sure how those that are on Zoom will do that. Andy will walk you through that either later or through email or whatever. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Good job. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.